Hey everybody, welcome back for another video. It's video 2 of our couch series, our couch chat series, where I just kind of sit on my couch and answer some commonly asked questions. And today I'm going to start with talking about the most common things I see when I work with my clients or work with new clients or even online clients. Common things I see that slow down your progress, slow down the improvement. Okay, so usually in the number one biggest thing I see with slowing down improvement or making change is because you don't exaggerate enough. You see a lot of the times in my videos that I make for you guys on YouTube where I'm talking about implementing changes, I show a very extreme exaggeration. For example, one of my most recent videos, I talk about trying to turn more, feeling like my left shoulder goes down and around. I know my exaggeration is so down, it's so low, but in reality, it's never going to be like that. I know it's never going to be like that. I've yet to see someone literally go so far down and around that they do it so bad. I've never seen that happen, and I'd be shocked if I see that happen in the near future. So really, don't be afraid to make exaggerations. The more you exaggerate, the more comfortable you get at feeling uncomfortable, the faster you will, the faster progress you're going to experience, and the faster you will improve, and the happier you'll be sooner. So you guys always hear me talk about trusting the process and like when I say trust the process, and I know I say it a lot, but I mean it so much. I believe in that so much, where you just have to exaggerate. It may feel like shit, you might hit it so bad for the first 30 minutes, but it's going to get so much better. You're going to raise the ceiling for improvement, so just stick with it, just do it. So don't feel like you're going to over exaggerate, because chances are you're not going to exaggerate enough. So that's the number one thing. The number one thing that people do that hinder their improvement or hinder their rate of improvement is they don't exaggerate enough. The second thing that I find very common is a lot of misconceptions, a lot of concepts they feel like are true, or they feel like they have to have in their golf swings from what they've heard on TV or what they've heard from their friends, that are just not an important part of what will be working well for them. So for example, keeping your head steady. Great. Sure, you don't want your head moving, sideways a foot or two, but at the same time, it's okay to have a little bit of movement, because chances are, and from experience, from what I've seen with a lot of my clients in person and online, is the more often than not they try to keep their head steady in their backswing, it actually moves more. So a lot of times when they try to keep their head steady, they're actually moving it because they feel like they're keeping it steady. But in actuality, they're moving it because in an effort to keep their head so steady, they usually actually they force it down more. They force it into their lead side because they're not turning properly. They're trying to keep this head so steady that they're restricting their turn, and to replace the turn, they start moving in different ways. Usually they start tilting too much, they start sliding because they feel like they should move in their backswing, and that movement should be a turn. But because they're not turning, it's replaced by tilting and sliding, but because it's still a movement, they feel like they're turning properly and they feel like they're keeping their head steady. But in actuality, they're not keeping their head steady. It's actually moving down towards the ball, which you don't want. I much rather see someone move their head a little bit off the ball, a little bit higher off the ball, because it affords them flow and fluidity into the downswing to help them get back down into the ground. The best ball strikers will see some rise and fall in their backswing and downswing, and that's really the squat and rotate that I really like for a lot of my clients. You don't have Some clients might squat and rotate 6 inches, some might squat and rotate 2 inches. It really doesn't matter, as long as you find the right amount for you. But letting your movement, have fluidity and freedom, really keeping their head still is not a recipe for that. You want to be able to, if you're working on something, I'd much rather you let yourself feel a little bit of movement, a little bit of move off the ball if you feel like it's going to help you turn better, if you feel like it's going to help you move better and not slide and tilt. I'm all for it. Another example, I think, that people have another misconception is they try to think about planes. They try to think. I think a common checkpoint that you see on TV is at shaft parallel. The club head should go through the hands, through the arms. Why? While it looks great on camera, and I do have some of my clients go through those spots, it's not a non-negotiable. So a lot of times people are so fixated on moving their club in a straight plane. But what that happens is there's no dynamics in that movement. There's no flow and fluidity. There's no athleticism. Trying to move on a singular plane more often than not hurts players, especially if you're a weekend warrior. You play once a week. You don't have much time to practice. That's not something that is very easily maintained while having fluidity and power. So don't try to force positions because if it's a look that you see on TV or on YouTube or your buddy says so. If you're inside in a takeaway, doesn't matter, because if you're inside and eventually leads to some good movement, more often than not, you're gonna play better golf and you're gonna have more fun. So when you practice this winter, if you have something specific to work on and you know you have something to work on, don't be fixated on preconceived notions where you have to move on a singular plane. You have to keep your head steady. You have to try to hit down on the ball. All those things aren't important really. Those might be small issues you have in your swing, but by fixating on those things, you actually don't solve those issues. So the most important thing is, of course, working with someone that you trust. If you can, watch my YouTube channel. At least I believe I'm giving you guys some good information that can help you guys improve. At least there's a higher probability of improving. But when you practice and you're working on things, again, throw away your preconceived notions of what the swing should look like, of moving on a plane or hitting down on the ball or keeping your head steady. Those things are important. Focus on what is important. Think about width, think about depth, think about rotation. If you think about all those things, the other things will take care of itself. If you have width, if you have depth, if you turn properly, chances are you're gonna hit down on the ball fine. Your head will be relatively steady, fine. You're going to turn properly and not start sliding and tilting. All good, because you're focusing on the things that promote those movements, that promote those results. You're never, people who don't improve very fast or who maybe don't even improve at all is because they don't know what to focus on to improve on those faults. They are fixated on the fault and they want to just try to fix that fault right there, but they don't know what is causing that fault. So and I don't blame them. It's hard. There's a lot of information out there. It's just really making sure that think about just different things. Don't be fixated on your concepts that have hindered you for a long time, because more often than not, a lot of you guys have been thinking about that for maybe 1, 2, 3 years, but it hasn't helped. So there really is nothing to lose, but everything to gain by trying something maybe a little outside the box and just trying different things. So those are kind of 3 common things that I see that hold people back when they practice, or hold them back from improving as much as they can when they practice. And also, when you practice, especially in Toronto or anywhere with an extended off season, really be diligent and disciplined on what your goal is. If you're someone, for example, who's outside and over the top and you want to try to be more inside out, chances are my priority for that player is going to be changing the movement to, one, raise their ceiling for improvement, where let's say they work really hard, they attain their goals this year, heading into the season, and then next year they can still keep improving and try to reach that higher ceiling, compared to someone who, let's say, they're over the top and the sole purpose is just try to be inside out. They restrict themselves because they're not building a bigger foundation to support that high ceiling. So usually what will create that positive change, which is changing from outside into inside out, is if you move properly, you're going to get that goal. It's not simply by let me just do everything I can to make it inside out. Chances are that player might just be most tilt, which will help you get more inside out path. But if you tilt more in the downswing, you're not raising that ceiling. You're trading one problem for another problem, which is I'm going to outside in, compared to moving inside out, but now I'm not going to rotate anymore. But golf being rotational, you have to rotate. So tilting is not the way to do it. So the most common thing I've seen to help them improve long term is to just work on the movement first. The contact will come. Okay. The off season is long. You have enough time to grind out a month of bad hits, or maybe you shank it for a week or two. It doesn't matter. Things will clean up before the season starts. You just gotta have faith. You just gotta believe in yourself. You gotta trust the process. Things will turn around. Things don't happen simply in one lesson. For some players, they're very lucky. They just need maybe 1 or 2 lessons and they're all good. Ceiling is raised. Other times it's gonna take longer. With now that being said, if your goal really is to just, you don't have much time to work on things, you just want one simple band-aid, sure. You put that band-aid on, but you have to make sure you accept that it is a band-aid and you're trading one set of problems for another, and so that when you go play, you should be happy that you've accomplished your goal of, let's say for example, now you're inside out. You might be tilting to do it, but you're inside out, so you should be happy with that and not start complaining of the misses that accompany you being tilting back to achieve the inside out. So I think that's a trap that a lot of us fall into, where we attain one set of goals and then we try to do more and try to attain more, even though we haven't allowed ourselves to work towards those new set of goals. So I think goal management is also one very important thing that we should create for ourselves, where let's say you have 5 months of off season, create your most important goal, maybe second goal and third goal, and then work towards them. And if you attain them, great, be happy. You've worked really hard, and then try to set new goals after that. But that's for the next off season. Don't achieve those 3 goals and then right away you want 3 goals, but the season started. That's not the time for working on big changes. It's time to have fun, see what you've done with your off season, see how your hard work translate into the golf course. And so that's my personal thoughts on trying to improve the most in an efficient amount of time. So I kind of babbled a bit. I kind of just went on a tangent a little bit. So maybe I'll answer some questions now that I see regularly pop up on some of the most recent videos. So a lot of you guys have asked me about left shoulder down, the lead shoulder going down and around. Is that going to cause you to be outside in? Those videos are strictly for players who tilt, who don't rotate much. For you to keep your left shoulder down and around, it's going to help you maintain inclination, which is the goal, which is going to help you rotate better in the downswing, which is the goal and purpose of that video. You have to make sure you have the supporting pieces in play, which is you need to have that arm depth and the hands keeping deep in the downswing to support the left shoulder down and around. You need to have a shallow shaft to support that. If you're someone with a steep shaft and you're going to go left shoulder down and around, sure, you're going to be outside in. But if you're someone who has a steep shaft, focusing on down and around isn't the thing to work on. So that video doesn't really apply to you at that moment. Other things I've seen, I talk about the down hinge. I talk about feeling the club that goes way behind. I shallow the shit out of it. It looks super shallow, but again, that's in partial speed. I'm really exaggerating the movement. When it goes full speed, things will never shallow that much. But again, I'm exaggerating a movement for you guys to hopefully encourage you guys to get to challenge your limit, to challenge your end range. Chances are you're not going to overdo it. I really want you to, time is precious. I want to help you guys improve under the fastest time possible. So that's why exaggerations are needed. What else comes up quite a bit? Let's see. And again, as you guys are watching this, any questions, leave in the comments below. I'll get back to them as fast as I can. I think I've been pretty good about getting back to questions. Question. This is a very common question too. How much speed is someone able to gain? The average player able to gain? I think I answered that in one of my previous videos, but I think 10 miles is generally attainable for for your average player. Of course, getting from 75 miles to 85 miles is much easier than getting 110 to 120. But that being said, I think it's not impossible. So just really depends on the player. Depends on physique, depends on practice time, um, depends on past athletic experience, a few things. But usually 10 is not a number I shy away from. Um, what else do people tend to ask? I'd show more videos of my dog, but my dog's sleeping right now. Very, very cute. Some of you guys might have seen him on my last Q&A, which I will be doing another live Q&A soon, I promise. Thank you everyone for actually tuning in. I think this will be a good question to clear up. So I've talked about not lifting your hands in the backswing, and I've also made a video about getting your hands nice and high. Usually when people talk about not lifting is I don't want that arm lift happening early, okay? If it happens early, your arms disconnect, your hands get away from you, your arm disconnects from your chest. I don't like that. But what I do like is getting hands high. So what most players have to do is make sure they turn first, and through either the inclination is what gets the hands up, because if I turn very flat, my hands don't go up. If I start get out of inclination, my hands get higher. So through inclination, through turning on the inclination, I can get my hands high, or I can just push and stretch my hands higher at the very end. I usually don't do that very early. I like to turn and push things up, feeling in and up hand path. Again, we talked about not moving in a singular plane on the backswing or the downswing. I like things kind of moving in curved lines to add a little more fluidity to it. So think in and up if you want to get hands nice and high without worrying about the arm lift. What else? Oh yes. So again, off season is basically here for most of us in Canada, us being here in Toronto. So how I like to go about let's say 5 months of off season. Okay. Typically, a lot of players can make a lot of good changes, making the swing very, very playable in 5 months and bring it to the golf course. With that being said, typically the first 2 months are going to be pretty tough, where I grind that player pretty hard. I just rip it apart if that's what they want. But a lot of backswing structural changes, making sure that we can support the downswing to get the results that the player wants. So the first 2 months, let's say, is just kind of making sure the backswing is really good, is making sure it's as bulletproof as we can make it before we start making downswing changes. And then the next 2 months is just grinding in that downswing, making sure it's playable, it's not too much thought. And in the last month, we just start doing we just start refining. We do more short game. But a lot of the times, starting month 2 or 3, we will already be warming up with wedge shots, with half wedge shots, so that we're kind of indirectly working on the short game stuff. It's a warm up, but that warm up will be hitting to 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards, 60 yards, 70 yards, just to get that half swing going, just to get that width going with the arms moving with the torso. I love the partial wedge shots to encourage that. So that's how we kind of outline things. Maybe I'll talk about one more thing before I call it quits for the day. It's been a long day. What would be a good question to end on today? Oh yes, yeah, that would be a good one to talk about. So, in one of my older videos, maybe not that old, I talk about the leg work or the feet work. I use that piece of cardboard to illustrate how your foot should be pushing into and against the ground, to torque into the ground to get your hips going the other way. That is so important. So a lot of times I talk about squat and rotate. I talk about leg work, but in reality, it's the feet that influence how the legs work. It's the feet's grabbing of the ground that dictate how hard you push into the ground, how you rotate how your body rotates. It's all a result of how your feet grab and interact with the ground. Because if you're standing on ice, you're not going to be able to torque the ground very, very well because there's so much slip. But because we're wearing golf shoes and there is grip, we're able to torque into the ground. That sets off a chain reaction up the legs, up into the torso area, through the hips, through the torso, through the arms, to the hands, and to the club. It's by using the feet to help us improve the leg work that gets us that desired result. So if you're doing a squat and rotate, it's not simply just a sit and rotate and spin your hips. It's a you squat into the ground as your feet really grip the ground hard, and your feet is tearing the ground apart. You're ripping it. You're breaking the grass. You're breaking the ground. You're breaking the soil. It's that rippage of the ground with your feet that help you squat and rotate hard and react back up and around. That's what helps you get that power up from the ground up. So always think feet, okay? Good leg work starts from the feet. The feet will start the downswing. So that's just a clarification I wanted to talk about for a lot of you guys who might be watching my videos. But that cardboard drill is a really good drill for a lot of people. So yeah, let's call it a night on that. Hopefully this video would have helped. It's basically the start of the off season. Maybe we're just a little bit past the start of the off season, where it's mid-November, actually end of November now. Wow, time flies. November 27th. So hopefully that helps. When you practice, don't be afraid to exaggerate. Throw away preconceived notions of what you think the swing should look like, especially if you're just a normal amateur player. Chances are those preconceived notions are holding you back. So don't be afraid to exaggerate. Throw away your preconceived notions. Think outside the box, trust the process, and good things will happen. So hopefully that helps. Any questions, just leave in the comments below, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching, everybody.